Welcome back. Right now, a U.S. spacecraft is hurtling toward the moon, preparing to land on the surface.
Should it succeed, it would be the first time in more than 50 years that a spacecraft from the U.S. lands on the moon. NBC's Tom Costello has the details.
Now closing in on the moon at nearly 25,000 miles per hour, a 14-foot lander named Odysseus from the Greek epic The Odyssey.
And liftoff. Go SpaceX, go IM-1 and the Odysseus lunar lander.
The launch just 7 days ago on a SpaceX rocket from the Kennedy Space Center.
Mach 1.
With spectacular views of Earth as it broke free of Earth's gravitational pull. If the mission succeeds, it will be the first private company to land on the moon after other companies' recent attempts failed.
And the lunar lander on board could be the first U.S. moon landing since the Apollo program ended more than 50 years ago.
But the big challenge comes later today, landing near the moon's forbidding South Pole.
There is no GPS at the moon, at least not today. So we have to carry our own navigation system on board, and you'll see the two pods on either side of the vehicle.
The lander is built by Houston-based Intuitive Machines. On board, an Eagle camera that will jettison early to record the landing. Another camera will capture the Milky Way from the moon, and 6 NASA experiments to gather new lunar data.
It's preparing us for sending humans to the lunar surface in advance of the Artemis missions.
Future astronauts could one day tap into the ice water on the South Pole, but this mission timeline is short. Odysseus' solar power will last just 12 to 13 days.
Unfortunately, once the sun goes down, it gets extremely cold at the moon, and the vehicle systems will most likely freeze, and that'll be the end of the first mission. It will not return.
Hoping to cut down on costs, NASA has contracted with 14 private companies to send experiments to the moon.
We're only beginning to understand the materials on the moon. And I think there's materials that are worth something not only from a science and discovery standpoint, but maybe from a consumer goods standpoint.
And there's something else on board. 125 miniature moon sculptures from the artist Jeff Koons, named after historical figures and potentially the first approved artwork on the moon. Now, with just hours to go, the pressure is building to stick the landing.
And as we await that landing, let's talk a bit more about what's on this spacecraft.
Yeah, so it has ties actually to right here in Northeast Ohio. Pretty cool. Odysseus is carrying several pieces of NASA payload, including experimental technology developed locally at NASA Glenn. It's called the radio frequency mass gauge, used to measure fuel while in flight. Engineers say to think of it like the gas gauge on your car.
When you're on Earth, gravity helps out quite a bit, and the fluid in your gas tank stays level for the most part, and you're able to get a reading that way. However, when you're in space, there's no gravity. The liquid's on the walls, there's bubbles forming, so it's really hard to use the same type of gauging system.
The radio frequency mass gauge helped get Odysseus to the moon.